Have you ever wondered why a man, seemingly intelligent and kind, would consciously or unconsciously dismantle a connection with a woman who is, by all accounts, a beacon of light in his life? You've seen it. Perhaps you've lived it. The connection feels profound, the intimacy is real, and the future seems to hold a beautiful, shared horizon. Then, subtly at first, and then with devastating clarity, he begins to sabotage it. He creates distance, picks fights, resurrects old ghosts, or simply vanishes. It is a maddening, soul-crushing paradox. Most will tell you he's afraid of commitment, that he's not ready, or that he's simply a bad guy. But these are surface-level diagnoses for a wound that festers in the deepest, most hidden recesses of the male psyche. The truth is far more complex, and it has very little to do with you, and everything to do with his confrontation with his own soul. This isn't about simple fear. This is about a terror so primal it operates outside of conscious thought. When a man encounters a good woman, a woman who is congruent, emotionally mature, and possesses a deep sense of her own worth, he is not just meeting a person. He is standing before a mirror. And in that mirror, he is forced to see not only her light, but the full, terrifying expanse of his own shadow. The Swiss psychoanalyst Carl Jung defined the shadow as the unknown, dark side of the personality. It is the repository of all our repressed instincts, our shames, our insecurities, and our unlived potential. A good woman, through her very presence, her wholeness, and her inner light, illuminates everything within him that is fractured, dark, and undeveloped. His sabotage is not a rejection of her, it is a violent, desperate attempt to shatter the mirror that shows him the parts of himself he cannot bear to face. The sabotage is rarely a single, cataclysmic event. It is more often a campaign of psychological guerrilla warfare, waged by his unconscious against the perceived threat of her wholeness. It begins with projection. The parts of himself he has disowned, his own untrustworthiness, his fear of inadequacy, his latent anger, he begins to project onto her. Suddenly, you, the woman who offered him nothing but consistency and understanding, are accused of being controlling. Your strength is reframed as intimidation. Your emotional clarity is twisted into manipulation. He is not arguing with you, he is arguing with the specter of his own failings, which your presence has summoned from the abyss. You become the screen upon which he plays the horror film of his own inner world. This is a profoundly painful experience for the woman involved. You find yourself defending against accusations that have no basis in reality, trying to solve a puzzle with missing pieces, because the pieces are not in the relationship, they are in his past, in his psychic DNA. He is trapped in a battle you cannot see, let alone win. The more you try to reassure him, the more you attempt to prove your goodness, the more you tighten the psychological vice. Your very efforts to love him through his darkness are perceived by his terrified ego as an attempt to conquer him, to expose him, to force a confrontation he would rather die than face. The good woman doesn't just represent a loving partner, she represents the call to adventure, the call to grow, the terrifying summons to the hero's journey of individuation. And for a man who has made a comfortable home in the familiar ruins of his own limitations, this call sounds like a death knell. This psychic drama deepens when we consider the Jungian concept of the anima. The anima is the unconscious feminine aspect within a man's psyche. It is his inner woman, an archetype shaped by his relationship with his mother and significant female figures throughout his life. For many men, this inner figure is not a whole, integrated woman, but a splintered collection of ideals and wounds. He may carry a goddess anima, placing women on an impossible pedestal, or a siren anima, fearing their destructive power. When he meets a real, three-dimensional woman, she inevitably fails to conform to the flat, predictable dimensions of his inner archetype. A good woman, in her authentic complexity, shatters his projection. She is not just a nurturing mother or a seductive lover, she is a leader, a thinker, a creator, a vulnerable human being. This complexity is unbearable for the man whose anima is undeveloped. He doesn't know how to relate to a whole woman because he has never learned to relate to the wholeness of his own inner feminine. The relationship with you becomes a constant, painful reminder of his own internal fragmentation. He seeks a goddess he can worship from afar or a broken bird he can save, because both roles are simple, predictable, and place him in a position of power or control. A relationship with an equal, a conscious partner, requires him to step into a state of authentic vulnerability and integration he has not yet achieved. The sabotage, therefore, is an act of psychic preservation. He must destroy the outer relationship to protect the fragile, unstable fiction of his inner world. He runs from you to escape the far more terrifying work of integrating himself. This is why your goodness becomes a threat. Your emotional stability highlights his chaos. Your integrity exposes his compromises. Your self-worth challenges the very foundation of his ego, which may be built upon a need to be the stronger or more put-together one in the relationship. This dynamic is often rooted in what is known as the mother complex. If his relationship with his primary caregiver was one of enmeshment or emotional neglect, he may unconsciously seek to repeat this pattern. A good woman, who has healthy boundaries and will not participate in a dysfunctional enmeshment, disrupts this primal pattern. She refuses to be his emotional caretaker or the target of his unresolved rage towards his mother. She offers a healthy connection, but his psyche is addicted to the familiar poison of the unresolved complex. In his unconscious, he is a boy standing before a powerful feminine force. If his mother was engulfing, he will fear your love as a cage, a loss of his very self. If his mother was distant or critical, he will be unable to accept your unconditional love, constantly testing it, waiting for the inevitable rejection he believes he deserves. He will provoke you, push you, and create scenarios to force you into the role his psyche needs you to play, the abandoning mother, the critical mother, the engulfing mother. When you, with your centeredness and self-respect, refuse to play the part, the entire script of his inner world falls apart. The only way he knows how to restore his fragile psychic equilibrium is to burn the theater down. He sabotages the relationship to prove his deepest fear correct, that he is unworthy of love, and that the feminine is ultimately a source of pain or control. It is a tragic, self-fulfilling prophecy. Let us invoke the wisdom of the Stoics here, for they understood the landscape of the inner world with breathtaking clarity. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his Meditations, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." For you, the woman experiencing this bewildering sabotage, his behavior is the impediment. It is the obstacle. But it is also the way. The way not back to him, but deeper into yourself. The profound mistake is to personalize his chaos. His withdrawal, his accusations, his sudden emotional coldness, they feel like a verdict on your worth, but they are not. They are a broadcast of his inner state, a confession of his own limitations. Your task, as a conscious woman, is not to decode his mixed signals or to prove your value to a man who is at war with himself. Your task is to observe his behavior as data. This is the practice of Stoic detachment. It is not coldness or indifference, but a radical form of self-possession. You recognize what is within your control and what is not. You cannot control his shadow, his mother complex, his undeveloped anima. You cannot force him to walk the path of individuation. To even try is to abandon your own center, to spill your life force into a vessel that is riddled with holes. What you can control is your response. You can choose not to internalize his projections. You can refuse to participate in his drama. You can hold on to your own reality when he is trying to gaslight you with his own confusion. This act of radical self-preservation is not an act of aggression, it is an act of profound self-love. You are refusing to set yourself on fire to keep him warm. You are honoring the truth that your worth is not, and has never been, contingent on his ability to see it. The man who sabotages a good thing is often a modern-day pure eternus, the archetype of the eternal boy. He is charming, full of potential, and thrilling to be around. He lives in the realm of beginnings, of infinite possibility, but he is terrified of the actual, messy, demanding reality of grounded commitment. The pure wants the transcendent experience of love, but shuns the earthly responsibility that comes with it. He wants the muse, not the wife. He wants the affair, not the marriage. A relationship with a good, grounded woman represents the end of his eternal boyhood. It demands that he descend from the clouds of potential and plant his feet on the solid ground of reality. It requires him to choose one path and forsake all others, to build something real, brick by painstaking brick. This descent feels like death to the pure. His freedom, which is really just an escape from responsibility, is his most prized possession. The sabotage is his escape hatch. It allows him to retreat back into the fantasy of what could have been without ever having to risk the failure of what is. He can then idealize the woman he pushed away, transforming her in his memory into the perfect goddess he lost, forever preserving her in the amber of his own romantic fantasy. He doesn't mourn the loss of you, the real woman, he mourns the loss of the perfect fantasy he was unable to sustain. This is a tragedy for him, for he sentences himself to a life of perpetual beginnings, forever chasing a horizon that recedes as he approaches, never building a home for his own soul. For you, understanding this archetype is liberating. You were not rejected because you were not enough, you were rejected because you were too real. This is where the journey turns inward, where his destructive act becomes the catalyst for your own alchemical transformation. The pain you feel is real and it must be honored. But within that pain is a profound opportunity. You must ask yourself, what part of me was attracted to this dynamic? What unhealed wound in my own psyche found a familiar resonance in his? Often, the woman drawn to the man who sabotages is an unconscious fixer, a woman who carries a deep-seated belief that her love can heal a broken man. This belief is often born from her own childhood experiences, where she may have had to be the emotional caretaker for a parent, learning that her value came from her ability to soothe another's chaos. His sabotage, then, is a gift in disguise. It is a brutal but effective mercy. It forces you to confront your own shadow, the part of you that seeks validation through saving others, the part that mistakes intensity and drama for intimacy and love. This is your own shadow work, your own journey of individuation, mirrored in his. He shattered the external relationship, but in doing so, he has given you the chance to heal the internal pattern that drew you to him in the first place. You must turn your loving, healing energy away from him and pour it back into the neglected corners of your own soul. You must become the hero of your own story, not a supporting character in his tragedy. This is the moment you stop asking, "Why did he do this to me?" and start asking, "What is this trying to teach me about myself?" The question shifts from one of helpless victimization to one of empowered self-discovery. His actions are a form of psychological poison, and when you are bitten, the antidote is not to analyze the snake's motives, but to tend to your own wound. The temptation to ruminate, to replay every conversation, to search for the one thing you did wrong, is immense. This is the ego's trap. It operates under the illusion that if you can just understand his psychology perfectly, you can solve the problem and get him back, thereby validating your worth. But this is a fool's errand. You are applying logic to an emotional storm, trying to reason with an unconscious complex. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus taught that our chief task in life is to separate things into two categories, those we can control and those we cannot. You cannot control his inner world. The more you try, the more you enmesh yourself in his pathology. The true path to healing is to practice a form of radical acceptance. Accept that his actions are a reflection of his own capacity, not your value. Accept that you may never get the closure or the apology your heart desires. This acceptance is not weakness, it is the highest form of emotional strength. It is choosing your own peace over the need to be right. It is withdrawing your energy, not with anger or resentment, but with the quiet dignity of a queen who refuses to engage in the politics of a chaotic court. You turn your focus to what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your boundaries, and the meaning you assign to this experience. You can choose to see this not as a rejection, but as a redirection. The universe, in its sometimes brutal wisdom, has removed someone from your life who was incapable of meeting you where you are. It has cleared a space. And it is up to you to decide what you will build in that space now that you are free. Consider the nature of true strength. Is it the ability to endure mistreatment? To love someone through their self-destruction? To hold on tighter when they are pushing you away? Society often romanticizes this kind of feminine endurance, framing it as loyalty or unconditional love. But from a psychological and spiritual perspective, this is not strength, it is a trauma response. It is a repetition of a pattern where love is equated with suffering. True strength is the ability to recognize when a connection has become a source of psychic diminishment and to have the courage to walk away. It is the wisdom to know that you cannot want someone's healing more than they want it for themselves. The man who sabotages is on his own path. It may be a path of repeated self-destruction that lasts a lifetime. Or, this very act of losing you may be the rock-bottom moment that finally forces him to confront his shadow. But that is his journey, not yours. Your journey is to recognize the sacredness of your own energy. Your love, your empathy, your nurturing presence, these are not infinite resources to be poured into a black hole. They are sacred gifts to be bestowed upon those who have the capacity to receive and reciprocate them. To continue to offer these gifts to a man who tramples on them is an act of disrespect to your own soul. Walking away is not giving up on him. It is a final, powerful affirmation of your belief in yourself. It is a declaration that you are worthy of a love that builds, not one that systematically dismantles. This is where you begin the sacred process of reclaiming your projections. Just as he projected his shadow onto you, it is likely you projected your own light onto him. You saw his potential. You saw the king beneath the wounded boy. You fell in love not just with the man he was, but with the man you knew he could be. This is a beautiful and generous impulse, but it is also a dangerous one. It means you were, in part, in a relationship with a fantasy, a future version of him that he himself was not ready or willing to become. The pain of the separation is often the pain of letting go of that beautiful potential, that shared future you built in your mind. The work now is to consciously withdraw that projection. That incredible potential for greatness you saw in him? It was never truly his. It was a reflection of your own. You were projecting your own courage, your own capacity for growth, your own integrity onto him. You must now gather up that golden light and place it back where it belongs, within you. The king you were looking for is not him, it is the integrated masculine aspect of your own psyche, the animus. This is the part of you that is assertive, rational, and action-oriented. By experiencing his lack of it, you are being called to develop it more fully within yourself. You learn to become your own protector, your own provider of stability, your own champion. You stop looking for a man to complete you and realize the entire drama was a convoluted, painful, but ultimately effective path back to your own sovereignty. Imagine a master craftsman building a temple. He needs strong, sound materials. If he is given a piece of wood that is warped, riddled with termites, and fundamentally unsound, what does he do? Does he spend years trying to fix the wood? Does he weep over its flaws, blaming himself for not being a good enough craftsman to make it work? No. He sets it aside. He recognizes, with clear-eyed discernment, that this material is not suitable for the sacred structure he is building. He does not hate the wood. He may even feel a touch of sadness for its condition. But he does not compromise the integrity of his temple for it. He seeks out materials that are as strong and as whole as his vision. You are that master craftsman, and your life is that temple. A man who sabotages a healthy connection is, for whatever reason, an unsound building material. His internal chaos, his unresolved trauma, his fear of intimacy, these are the termites in the wood. Your job is not to be his exterminator. Your job is to be the architect of your own life. This requires a level of ruthless self-honesty. It requires you to value the sanctity of your temple, your peace, your emotional stability, your future, more than you value the potential of a flawed piece of material. This is not about judgment. It is about discernment. It is the practice of Seneca's wisdom, to be unperturbed by what we cannot change, and to have the clarity to build our lives with what is solid, true, and worthy. The pain of this experience often creates a kind of psychic armor. You may feel the urge to close your heart, to become cynical, to vow never to be so vulnerable again. This is a natural defense mechanism, but it is a prison. The goal is not to become hard, the goal is to become wise. The heart is not meant to be a fortress, it is meant to be a garden. And a wise gardener does not build a 10-foot wall around her garden after a pest gets in. Instead, she learns to identify the pest. She learns its patterns. She installs a small, intelligent fence and enriches the soil, so that what grows there is so vibrant and strong that it becomes resilient. Your experience with this man has taught you to identify the patterns of self-sabotage. You have now learned, on a cellular level, what an unintegrated shadow looks like. You have felt the chilling confusion of projection. You now know the difference between a man who is merely flawed, as all humans are, and a man who is actively at war with his own potential for love. This knowledge is your fence. It is not a wall. It allows you to enter future connections with your heart open, but with your eyes clear. You learn to trust the quiet, steady hum of a healthy connection over the dramatic, addictive highs and lows of a trauma bond. You are not broken by this, you are educated. You have earned a master's degree in psychological discernment, paid for with your own tears. And this is an education that will protect the garden of your heart for the rest of your life. This entire ordeal is an initiation. In ancient cultures, initiations were trials by fire, designed to burn away the unessential and reveal the true, core self. His act of sabotage is the fire. And what is being burned away is your attachment to external validation. It is the part of you that believed your worth could be bestowed or taken away by a man's approval. It is the girlish fantasy that a prince will come and give you the kingdom. The fire burns, and it is agonizing. But as it burns, a new consciousness is forged within you. You are initiated into the queendom of your own self. You realize that you are the kingdom. You are the source of the love, the stability, and the validation you were seeking from him. This is the essence of Jung's process of individuation. It is the journey from being an unconscious participant in life's dramas to becoming the conscious author of your own story. You cease to be a damsel in distress, waiting to be rescued or chosen. You become the sovereign of your own inner world. You learn to cultivate your own inner masculine, your animus, to protect your inner feminine, your soft, loving, creative core. You become a self-contained, whole individual. This wholeness is magnetic. It radiates a quiet confidence that is far more compelling than any superficial beauty or charm. It is the energy of a woman who knows her own value, not as an intellectual concept, but as a deep, unshakable, cellular truth. She has faced the fire and walked out not smelling of smoke, but glowing with the embers of her own reclaimed power. Think of the Japanese art of kintsugi, where broken pottery is repaired with lacquer mixed with powdered gold. The philosophy behind it is that the object is more beautiful for having been broken. The cracks are not something to be hidden, but something to be illuminated. Your heart may feel shattered by this experience. But you are not meant to simply glue the pieces back together and pretend the break never happened. You are meant to fill the cracks with gold. The gold is the wisdom you have gained. It is the self-love you were forced to cultivate. It is the boundaries you learned to draw. It is the discovery of your own resilience. Your past, this painful chapter, does not make you damaged goods. It makes you a work of art. It gives you a depth, a compassion, and a strength you would not have otherwise possessed. When a man sabotages a relationship with you, he creates a crack in your heart. You have a choice. You can let that crack fester with bitterness and fear, or you can fill it with the gold of your own healing. When you choose the latter, you become not just whole again, but more beautiful, more valuable, and more interesting than you were before. You learn to love the parts of you that were broken, for they are the very places where your greatest light now shines through. A man who is himself whole will not be frightened by your golden cracks. He will recognize them as a sign of your strength and a testament to your journey. The need for closure is one of the most persistent illusions in the landscape of love and loss. You believe that if you could just have one final conversation, if he could just explain why, then you could finally move on. But you are seeking clarity from a source of confusion. You are asking a man who is lost in the fog of his own shadow to hand you a map. He cannot give you what he does not possess. His reasons, even if he could articulate them, would be a labyrinth of his own projections, fears, and rationalizations. Seeking closure from him is to give him one last measure of power over your emotional state. It keeps you tethered to the hope that he holds the key to your peace. True closure is not an external event. It is an internal decision. It is the moment you stop waiting for him to give you permission to heal. It is the moment you accept the story for what it was, not what you hoped it would be. It is the quiet, internal click when you take your hand off the door to the past and gently, firmly, lock it from your side. You realize that the only explanation you ever needed was the one you already have. His actions showed you his character and his capacity. That is the truth. Anything else is just noise. Your closure does not lie in his words. It lies in your own silence, in your own turning away, and the sacred act of choosing your own future over a painful and perplexing past. You give yourself closure. It was always in your power to do so. Let's return to the archetypal realm. The good woman, the conscious woman, embodies the archetype of the queen. The queen rules her kingdom, her life, her emotions, her choices, with wisdom, integrity, and grace. She does not beg for a place in someone else's chaotic, half-built castle. She is too busy tending to the flourishing of her own domain. When a man-child, a pure Eternus, enters her kingdom and begins to cause chaos, the queen does not abandon her throne to chase after him and ask him why he is knocking over the statues. She does not diminish herself or her kingdom by trying to accommodate his destructive behavior. With calm authority, she has him escorted to the border. Her heart may feel a pang of sadness for his inner turmoil, for the potential king he failed to become, but she will not, under any circumstances, allow his chaos to compromise the peace and integrity of the world she has so carefully built. This is the energy you must now cultivate. You are the queen of your own life. Your peace is your throne. Your self-worth is your crown. And your boundaries are the fortified walls of your kingdom. Anyone who seeks to undermine these things is not a potential partner, they are an invading force. And a queen does not negotiate with invaders. She removes them, reinforces her defenses, and continues to rule with the quiet, unshakable power that comes from knowing, without a doubt, that she is, and always has been, enough. The psychological gravity of a trauma bond can be immense. It feels like love, but it is an addiction. The cycle of his withdrawal and return, the intermittent reinforcement, creates a powerful chemical bond in the brain, similar to a gambling addiction. You keep pulling the lever, hoping for the jackpot of his consistent love, but you are being fed just enough wins to keep you playing a losing game. Breaking free from this requires the same kind of radical detoxification as breaking an addiction. It means going no contact. It means removing every reminder of him from your environment. It means enduring the painful withdrawal symptoms, the obsessive thoughts, the profound loneliness, the urge to reach out, without giving in. During this detoxification, you must flood your system with healthier sources of validation and connection. You reconnect with friends who reflect your worth back to you. You throw yourself into work or creative projects that give you a sense of purpose. You spend time in nature, allowing its silent, steady presence to recalibrate your nervous system. This is not about distracting yourself, it is about actively rewiring your brain. It is about teaching your psyche, on a fundamental level, that you can survive, and even thrive, without the drug of his validation. Each day you resist the urge to check on him, to text him, to engage with his drama, you are taking a dose of the antidote. You are reclaiming your dopamine system, your self-respect, and your life force, one conscious choice at a time. It is a fight, but it is the fight for your own freedom. As you heal, your perception of him will begin to shift. The intense, emotionally charged image you held of him will begin to fade. The pedestal you placed him on will crumble. You will start to see him not as a complex, tortured soul you were meant to save, but simply as a man with significant, unaddressed issues. The romantic haze dissipates, and you are left with the sober, and sometimes disappointing, light of day. You will see that his depth was often just well-packaged pain, and his intensity was unprocessed trauma. You will begin to feel not anger or heartbreak, but a kind of neutral, detached compassion. You might even feel a sense of gratitude, for he was the unwitting catalyst for your most profound period of growth. This is a critical turning point. It is the moment you truly take him out of the center of your story. He is no longer the villain or the lost love. He becomes a minor character who played a specific role and then exited the stage. The narrative becomes, once again, about you. About your journey, your resilience, your becoming. When you can think of him without a surge of pain or a pang of longing, but with a simple, quiet, I wish him well, but his path is not mine, then you know you are free. The chains have not been broken, they have dissolved. You have healed the part of you that was a lock for his particular key, and he no longer has any power or relevance in the sanctuary of your inner world. This journey culminates in a state of being that the Stoics called apatheia. This is not apathy or indifference. It is a state of tranquil clarity, an immunity to the disturbances of the outside world. It is the inner peace that comes from anchoring your sense of self not in people or outcomes, but in your own virtue, your own integrity, and your own rational mind. You no longer ride the roller coaster of another person's emotional state. Your happiness is not contingent on whether he texts back, whether he approves of you, or whether he finally sees your worth. Your well-being becomes a fortress built on the bedrock of your own self-knowledge. You have walked through the fire of his sabotage and emerged into this state of serene strength. You find joy in your own company. You cultivate your own interests. You build a life so rich and full that a partner becomes a wonderful addition, not a desperate necessity. This is the ultimate empowerment. It is the freedom from emotional dependency. You understand that the deepest psychological reason a man might sabotage a relationship with a good woman is a reflection of his inner poverty. And you have discovered, through the painful grace of his departure, the inexhaustible wealth of your own soul. You have become a woman who does not need to be chosen, because you have finally, fully, and irrevocably chosen yourself. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses.